Okay, well, hello and welcome. Thank you everybody for tuning in this Friday afternoon. Today we're chatting to the incredible Mr. Gary Wilson, 007, or fondly known as Flipper. We might hear about why that is soon. A little bit about Gary just to kick us off. Gary was a former member of the Elite Special Operations Anti-Terrorist Group for the Victoria Police. He was part of the bomb squad, the anti-terror unit. He's worked in witness and personal protection, and he's been a bodyguard to a lot of the rich and famous people like Pope John Paul II, Charles and Diana, the Queen, Claudia Schiffer, and many more high-profile people from around the world. Gary's been witness to some of the biggest criminal events in Australia's history. I won't name them, but we might touch on a few of them today and hear about the inside information. Love to get a bit of an insight to the mind of somebody like yourself, Gary, what it takes, what you've learned, and maybe what we can take away into our lives from your experiences. So thanks for joining us, Gary. Please kick off and elaborate a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Tiff. Hey, thanks for having me on Friday. I heard this is the 4 o'clock drinks on an afternoon after we've gone absolutely wild during the week. And hi to everybody there. And thanks. Look, Tiff's got me on here, and normally sometimes when I'm on, let's say it's TV, radio, or any of the podcasts, because we're so busy. But when Tiff said, look, this is what you guys were doing, I just said, look, get me on because we're good mates, and away we go. Look, just a little bit about myself. I was just what I call a normal kid brought up in the northern suburbs. Just went to a, like a Catholic school, and then went to a college. And then when I left, I just wanted to get to work straight away. I wasn't really a brilliant student. I was very heavily geared towards sports and AFS, and started martial arts when I was younger because it was a rough neighbourhood. But, I just went out and just sort of got a job in the public service, which was in admin, and just sitting at a desk, and I just felt I was bored off my rocker. So I just thought, well, what would be something cool to do? And I thought, look, it'd be exciting to join the emergency services, and I could have chose fire brigade, which my brother's a member of now, and my nephew. But I don't know, I just thought it'd be more exciting to join the police force. So what I did was I had a bit of a look at that, and just going back, Tiff, and this is why the SOG, I was walking in Russell Street one day, just a civilian, just at work, doing my normal public service stuff. And I saw a guy dressed in black, and he had a black cap on, black army boots, all in a black jumpsuit. He had guns hanging off his hips, and he looked cool and fit as. And so what I did was I just sort of, I just sort of felt a bit confident. So I went up to him. I said, mate, who are you and what do you do? And he said, look, I'm special operations group, anti-terrorist group. And I said, mate, how do you get into that? And he goes, you got to join the police force first and get in, but mate, it's not for everybody. And from that moment on, I had a real strong visual in my mind, and saw myself walking down the same street in the future sometime with the blacks and the cap and the guns, where somebody else would come and say, mate, what do you do? And I held that so crystal clear, and I'll cover some things that I do in order to get what we believe or what our dreams and goals are, and what I do later. But that's how it started off. So joining the police force, and I was the fastest to get into the SOG. I think it took me 20 months or something, because I was just so driven. But
Gary, what does it normally take someone to get in?
Well, to get into the SOG, so you normally join the police force, but what they do is they say, right, you've got to apply for the Gazette, and you had a couple of hundred apply, and there's about, back then I think there's about 13,000 in the force. And then what they do is they say, right, we're going to do a psych test, and then we're going to do a pre-course fitness test, And then we're going to do, another fears test. So basically what they do is when they do the psych test and then ask, why you want to get into it, and they mow it down to about another 60 to do that pre-course. The pre-course I thought it'd be just something simple, but we went down to Kew where the Yarra River was, off the bus, and there was a whole lot of us, and we're all in blue overalls and just, GP. And then they said, oh, look, just carry these shotguns and just run around the oval. And so I was pretty fit at the time, and I got with the fitter groups, and we were just running around and having a bit of a giggle because we thought, oh, mate, this is pretty easy because there's a lot behind us and we're lapping people. But little did we know we had a target on our back because they were all watching the guys in the SOG, and they weren't smiling. It was like, with the 1,000-yard stare. And so we did all that, and then they wouldn't tell you when you stopped. And they kept on going what seemed like for ages. Then they would stop and get us into groups. Well, I was macked into a group that obviously they wanted to smash. And this is not to get in yet. This is just a pre-thing before you do your fear test. And then we had to swim across the Yarra, climb up a rope, go around an aerobic course 3 times, come back, and then you had to drag someone, like survival swim across. And then we did what they called SOG aerobics, which is like 15 minutes or 30 minutes of hell. So it was just push-ups till you drop and, star jumps and burpees and whatever. And then when you finished that, they made you go towards the bus and you're exhausted. And they said, that's round 1. We've got to do that 5 times today. So, some people just would then say, that's it for me and get on the bus. And then you had to do that, and it went all day. And that was what they call the pre-course. Yeah. So that's sort of the level you had to be before you even got on the course, which is 3 months, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Am I right in believing that was where the name Flipper came from?
Yeah, there was two reasons. One was I just sort of had a bit of water from the Yarra in my ears. And, I thought, because I was the first one off to go across, which you had to swim under, to the other side underwater. And I thought they said if you don't get the other side, you failed and you're not in the SOG. And because I had the dream so vivid, I kept going until I was underwater and it was heavy and I couldn't get the other side and I felt like I was drowning, and then it all went calm and you heard all the angels sing. And then all of a sudden I was just sort of kept going and going. And then finally, where I just thought, oh, this is it, but I just kept going. I touched the end, I went up and I was exhausted and pale and white, and I just like I was going to die and vomit. And I heard a big cheer on the other side, and I'm thinking, what's the cheering for? And the guy that was near the rope starting to get up, he goes, mate, no one's ever done it before. And so they go, mate, you're like Flipper the dolphin, and then my name Wilson being Flip Wilson. And so, and then there was another one when we went on the course, which is the pool, and then, a similar thing happened where I didn't hear instructions. And so the name stuck as Flipper, and then short name Flip.
Nice.
You got any other questions for me?
Mate, I've got so many questions. I want to know that training that you go through, the training that that special ops need to do in order to get there. Do you believe that training develops you or discovers you?
Yeah, look, I believe that the training, does a discovery, because I thought, because I'd done all martial arts beforehand and done my black belts and second dan and third dans and fighting and street and all that, and I thought I had a strong willpower, but a lot of guys that were very strong in there just walked off after the first day on the course, because they were you were getting put into holes upside down, with claustrophobia. Then you had to go across ropes, across ravines very high up that you had no safety net. You were getting zapped with a cattle prodder because you had your hands folded or your arms where they said put it by the side, which is totally illegal now. They don't do that. But back in the 80s when I did it, that was what they did. But then I found that a lot of them gave up and went on the bus. But I don't know, for some reason when I kept that vision at the end that I was going to be walking down Russell Street all in the blacks, I found that I surprised myself with how resilient I was to pain and for the mental. So I found I was doing a discovery for the 3 months of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of torture, and found that I looked at it as a game in the end. I thought, well, they can't do anything else, Well, at one stage we went from the army barracks where they were training us to the office one time because I think someone got injured or they were doing a psych test on them. And then we had a bit of a breather, and then they had on the wall 20 exercises you must never do, and we reckon they were giving us 18 of them, you know. It was just really, it was just wild, a wild time.
Yeah.
But I think it discovers as I go along.
Yeah. Was there a standout operation that you went on that sticks in your mind more than others?
After I got in?
Yeah.
There was, look, I can't go past two. Actually, there's probably about a dozen, you know. But look, one of them was the Wall Street shootings. So on that morning, I was called in because I was in the bomb squad at the same time to do an EOR, an explosive ordnance reconnaissance at the Art Centre, because the Chuck and Di show was coming in, Lady Di and Prince Charles. And so we got there early to do all of that, and I was in the office, but I heard over the police radio that something was going, that was huge down in, two police down in Wall Street in South Yarra. And so you could hear it all, and then all of a sudden, the group of us came in. But because I was in the bomb squad, I had to go out with one of my mates who was in here, Donga McLeod, and him and I went out to Wall Street, and no one would touch or go near the cars or even try to and you guys there would understand as emergency services that they thought that car, one of the cars that they'd set up, which was stolen, could have been full of bombs. And then here's the police car underneath with the bodies, and one of them was still alive at that stage. And so I had to go in there and quickly do a diffuse, check to see if there's bombs in that first car. So we just sort of went into the bonnet and basically tripped it and looked around, saw that there was no bombs there, so people could carry on with what's going on. It was the fastest explosive ordnance reconnaissance we've ever done. And then after that, to go from there to going back to the office to say they got an idea of who might have done this, to go and do the raids on, Victor Pearce and Wendy Pearce with Jason Ryan, and then Bubble Boy, Macaboy, and all those ones are in it, to do the actual raids, and then go from that to doing witness protection with Jason Ryan, young guy, and Wendy Pearce, and that, who were sort of on the fringe, but we're going to do the testimony in court because they were trying to kill those witnesses. To go through that experience, to then going to Pentridge, where they were the ones that did the four of them on remand, to escort them to the courts, to strip search them in the cells, and that was all fun and games, to then making sure that they didn't escape in the court, to going back to that, and then for that whole thing to turn on its head for them to get off. And then one day when I'm walking the street to actually bump into them was something that would stick in my mind forever. So that was a very, very interesting time.
Mm.
The other one was the Queen Street massacre, where we trained our guts off all day, because when there's no jobs on, we're just training, and we're told to go home. And one of the things was running up and down stairs, because where we were in our office in Russell Street then, we were originally in the IWF building, but when the Russell Street bomb went off and they were trying to target police and especially us, we then moved from there into the back end of Russell Street. But in that time, basically, we never was, one of the things with SOGs, we're on level 5, and we were never allowed to catch the lift because, you had to run up and down to keep fit. So we always run up the stairs, down the stairs, never the lift. The only time we wanted to go down the lift is if we opened the door and turned the key to put the lift on the bottom, and we'd do fast sliding down the cables. So we could do that from the 6th floor down, It was quite fun. We've had a harness. The Queen Street one, we were doing all that training, and then we were ready to go home, and then we heard, that there was shots fired and things going on in Queen Street. Hang on, my Zoom just went off. Can you still see me?
No, you're still good.
All right. So then from there, basically we got told that it might have been an armed robbery going on in Queen Street. And so we just quickly went to Queen Street, ran upstairs because you don't catch the lift because whoever was doing the shooting, or we thought it might have been a few of them, that if you open up the lift, they'd stand there and just blaze away. So we were climbing up the stairs to get there. And, I remember jumping over a canter and seeing some 18-year-old, I found out later on, a young girl, and she wasn't moving. And then I went to a door that was locked and I kicked it open, seeing if there's someone in there. And there was around about 50 people in there screaming their head off. It was all the staff where the boss had said, go there. And they thought I was the terrorist, but because I was in black and the gun. When I said, no, it's the police, they all then tried to swarm me as a saviour. It was a really surreal moment. But it ended up being, I think it was around about, for that one, there was about either 8 or 12 shot dead. And it just sticks in my mind, that one, because after that, when I went home, I remember my girlfriend at the time telling me off because I was running late for my niece's 4th birthday party, because she didn't turn on the news, obviously, and the radio. But I didn't say anything, being us back then, and took it on the chin and said, all right, well, let's go. That was something that sticks in my mind.
Wow. So tell me, like, when you are faced with those situations, is there just a mental switch? Are you flipping a complete personality switch and walking in, and does that switch off when you walk out? And how do you manage that? How do you manage that life, or life outside of that work?
Do you know, it's interesting, that one, because when I first got into the Special Operations Group and we went on our first real job, and that was during the day, where you've done all this training, and basically the boys that are experiencing this say, hey, you're still green. You've still got to earn your stripes, because even though you've done that, you're not accepted yet, And I said, because you've got to get the experience. And we are, we were all sort of gung-ho, and we know what we're doing. But we had to get this guy who was a hitman, Rod Collins. He used to sleep during the day because he was up at night in case he was raided. And I remember walking along, and we were part of the entry team to smash through the door, and we're going past windows, and I just got this feeling that I could get my head blown off through the window if you stand there, because I'm in there during the day. And I really had a feeling of just absolute fear. This is my first job. And then all of a sudden, when the entry, guy, with the entry key, which is basically a sledgehammer, a 12-pound sledgehammer key, we call it.
Master key.
You're running. Once you hit that running and everybody's going everywhere, if experienced guys, you just sort of hit the ground running, doing what you normally do. It's amazing to go from that frozen spot into action. But years and years later, when I was in there and experienced, and we had other ones there, it was amazing how it just got to the stage where, yep, this is it. This is what you're doing. Going in there, knowing you could die. Yep, there's a bit of fear there, but you just absolutely just gun it anyway, because you're the experienced one showing the newer ones the way.
But is it something that when you come out of there, do you consciously work on what needs to happen? How do you purge that? Are you okay? Do you know you're okay, or are you just going with emotion? Like, is there a cognitive repercussions to experiencing that in the moment?
Yeah, back then there was jobs all the time, right? And the way that I could answer that was that I remember one time there was a job where we got the word, and the SOG got called in, and we had to go plain clothes, that a group of thugs had kidnapped a semi-trailer driver full of luxury cars and wanted to sell that for $120,000, the car and the semi-trailer and everything, all Porsches and BMWs and Mercedes. So I was the bag man. So I had to go in there with the money, and cut a long story short, it was a dark night, misty, and all the boys were secreted everywhere. The job went down at 8 o'clock. I showed them the money, this is in the car in the street, but the boys missed the signal, which was me ready to hand over the money, but I was instructed not to do it, to hand over the money, because it was the government, 120,000, it wouldn't have been in the good books for that. So when I brought it back in again and then yelled out, go, and the boys started coming, they realised what was going on. So I got a gun pulled on me into my ribs, and one of the guys actually fired it, and luckily that round didn't go off, and then he ran off because he was panicking. And then getting asked this question, like you said, about, well, how do I reset my mind for the rest of my life and not let that affect me? It was quite easy because Viper, or Jimmy Van, and in the special operations group, they called him Viper there. You know, he's a good mate of mine, and he was there. He just goes, quick, we've got to get back to the office because you're running the raid for the Hells Angels up in Reservoir. So we had to quickly go back to the office where I had the whiteboard showing them where the reconnaissance was as the house and the entry points, and I had to instruct all the team on the next raid. So I didn't even have time to think about what went on. And in hindsight, that was a good thing to do, is to keep my mind active and busy. And we went out and did another raid on them, you know, which we had to go through the roof. And, you know, then that sort of thing about what happened was like a distant memory. It was sort of like, because there was one after the other, that was how we coped.
Yeah.
That to answer your question back then.
Yeah, yeah.
What I do now is something completely different.
Oh, tell me.
Well, I've got a thing that I call like body, being, balance and business. So, for example, let's say that situation happened where we didn't go and do the raid on Hells Angels straight after that. And, you know, here we are with the gun pulled on me and thinking, you go back and go, mate, you could have got shot, you know, and then you're thinking about it that night. What I do now is I basically do the body where I go, right, what's the body? And I get into a comfortable position, maybe sitting in a chair or laying down, and I go through colours of the rainbow. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, violet. And then I go 1, 2, 3, I'm going to see a tranquil scene from nature. And I've got one where you picture yourself in somewhere where you're really peaceful before, which I've got a waterfall, you know, and I've got birds and nature, you know, there's a river there, you know, it's a nice sunny day. I go through the 5 senses. So I feel the sun on me, you know, I feel the wind, you know, there's a slight breeze. I pick a leaf and taste it, you know, feel the water that's down below, the waterfall that's there. You know, you smell all the smells. So all the 5, and then my 6th sense, I then project myself through the waterfall where I've got a secret workshop in my mind. And I've built this over a period of time, but you can do it instantly, where as I go into this room behind the waterfall, which is got glass and you can see all of nature around, but no one can see me. I've got a drive-in screen in front of me. I've got you know, a cylindrical part that I can bring anyone in I want as a mentor at any time. I've got lights that boom to heal me in my mind, to get me right. And I visualise on that screen a really good, peaceful, calm me, or whatever I want with my goals. And I do that regularly every morning. So that's my being part, you know. And then the body part is, we all do our normal training, or some of us do and some of us don't a lot, but every day, just make sure you do that 15 minutes of hard cardio. You know, mine's hitting and kicking the bag, you know, punched up the neighbour, you know, running out and up and down the road, anything like that, which you can do. And then basically having a green smoothie straight after that, so that you're fueling your body. So there's body and your being is your, you know, the meditation. The balance is anything you want to be thankful for with family, friends, anything like that. Even sending them text messages. And then the business side is where you project where you want your ideal passion of what your work is, you know, or what you see yourself doing. And that stage was SOG for me. I couldn't think of anything more exciting, you know, real life action in the bomb squad as well. So when you're doing that body, being, balance and business, it's amazing how it centers me. Let's say, you know, do meditation, but you're still getting affected on things. You know, but I think you got to do that exercise for the body. You got to do the mind. You got to do the balance of everything. And, you know, like Friday's drinks day. You know, which we
pour me a fig.
You know, like you know, because I believe that, you know, like you know, I don't have anything Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but Friday night I'll have a few. That's what we used to do every time we had a fatal shooting or something. You know, we were encouraged to drink. It was funny back then, but you know, anything in moderation. And then, you know, enjoy yourself. And then with the business, you know, making sure, because you know, that you've got enough to look after yourself and how to do all that. And when you do that and focus on that and you do that every morning as a ritual, you know, or during the day, I find you cope.
Are you spiritual?
I am. Very.
Have you always been spiritual, and did you innately develop that protocol for yourself, or did you go through a finding process, and are you the same spiritual as you've always been? There, have 7 questions. I'm good like that.
Yeah, that's all right. Look, I was brought up Catholic with a family. You know, I had I had 4 brothers and a sister, mum and dad. But I sort of went away from that because I went to a Christian Brothers school and I just did it for myself, you know. It was, you know, and went out into the workforce and just not really, thought there might have been a God there, but I wasn't really active on it all. Especially when I was in the group in the SOG, mate, we all thought, well, sons of God, you know, which is the special operations group, the SOG, you know. And our motto, blessed are the peacemakers, for that we shall be called the sons of God, you know, boom, 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 you know. So that's why we got that acronym. But through all that and through things and, you know, having a gun pulled on me and being in shootouts and being in these wild times, crawling under cars to defuse bombs and into places and all that sort of stuff, and in really bandy hunting, you know, that's another thing around the world over in South Africa, stressful situations. After that, when I met my mentor on just sort of, I sought out about how, you know, there is a real force out there. Whether we call it God or it's vibration or it's, you know, things that we believe as a creator. I really do see that I was protected all the way through. And there's things where I wouldn't be sitting here now. I'd be dead a lot of the time. Or in a situation in barroom brawls or fights or everything like that. And I was in hundreds of those afterwards. I never got hurt. And it was interesting because it was sort of like everything slowed down in slow motion. It was like the Matrix, Tiff. And it was funny, but I believe now that I've evolved in that and I've realised that. So I really do believe in that being of spirituality for sure, 100%. And that's evolved over time.
And when you were in those situations, did you feel like you had belief in yourself or belief in a higher purpose? Or was there both present, or was it not even in your mind? Because let's talk about you as a bomb diffuser. You're walking up to something that is going to explode, and your job is to hopefully make that not happen. But if you don't succeed in your endeavor, you die, and so do a lot of people. So you have to know, like a boxer that walks into the ring that knows they're going to win. We have to know we're going to win, whether we do or not. You have to know. So who is responsible for trust in you?
Yeah, all right. So there was no way knowns I ever thought when we were in the SOG group, because there was a guy called Max, we called him the Marlboro Man, you know, he resigned, that all of a sudden they were going to pick all the naughty boys, which was a couple of us, to go and do Bandiana to learn about bombs, to go and defuse bombs. But I was sent on because I was a naughty boy at that time, you know, probably the most naughtiest in there, Tiff.
I'm not surprised. Why am I not surprised?
No, I was just sort of thinking back. But like, so when I did that and we did the course, they were so thorough in what they taught you to do with safety things and everything, but still you had to actually go over the bomb to X-ray it. So you were close there. But they taught you things I call time over target. So the less time you're over the target, the better. So you have to go in, quickly do it and get out. You know, you don't linger around on that. Or when you're getting close to where there's a suspect package or a bomb, you actually run to it, do your thing and run out. But when I came back to Victoria after doing that course, and I was one, you know, I think there was only 2 of us in Victoria that were, and I went to my first one. I was probably really, really packing bricks. I was very nervous on doing it because I thought, well, you know, this is real now. It's only me. There's no one else in Victoria. But because I did it and it ended up being not really anything, it was just a fake. And then I did a few of those, and we're doing them regularly on a regular basis, more than what the the media put in the paper because I reckon all the crazies come up when they see things in his copies. But over time, I found that the more I did, the more it became like just a job. And I was more interested when I went to a party or something and somebody said they're a lawyer or in the ambulance or in the, you know, hey, tell us about yours. And they go, no, tell us about that. No, that's boring. You know, it was sort of weird. Looking back now, it wasn't boring, that's for sure. But it was more to do with, I think, the repetition of knowing the right safe practices and doing that kept it safe. But the more I did it and the more I practiced, like you said about the boxer in the ring, knowing, you know, okay, you can have all your adrenaline and a bit of nerves, but we've talked about this, Tiff. But if you're so prepared, you know, the 6 Ps, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance, we used to call it. And you know that you're going to just smash that person. You go in there full of confidence, you know straight away, I've got this. And it's the same with crawling under cars or going in and having suspect packages where there's bombs. It was really weird because you go in, but there's no one around because they evacuate the whole area. And I remember one time, Tiff, there was someone, Rusty's book came out, Satanic Verses, and all the, you know, obviously there was a radical group that said, hey, whoever's selling that, we're going to, you know, fix you up or blow you up or anything like that. And there was this newsagents that was selling it in the city in Melbourne. And so there was this car parked outside with a threat that said it was had a bomb in it. And I remember it was at night, and I went there, and the whole block was evacuated. And walking around, I was a little bit hungry, thinking, geez, I've got all the time in the world here. I don't really need to rush on this. I might go over there and pick that banana and a bit of fruit, and you know, I could have all the free food because I was hungry. And then thinking, all right, now I've got to get under there and do that very quickly and look under the car. And I remember looking under and looking up the road, and 2 blocks away there was someone in the police force, same rank as me, could have been, I don't know who it was, but directing traffic away. And suddenly dawned on me, hey, they're getting the same amount of money as I am, because you know, when I got my pay a fortnight later or a week later, whatever it was, I got an extra $16 for doing that. You know, so it was sort of like, it wasn't as if it was the money, it was more sort of, there was the adrenaline, the love of doing something completely different than what anyone else was doing at the time, even though it was highly dangerous. But it never crossed my mind that that car could blow up at any time. And walking around the corner, I remember seeing the fireys up the road there, and I was pretty thirsty. So I went up there, and believe it or not, my brother was part of the crew of the fireys. And he goes, oh, it's you. He goes, we're wondering who the idiot was that was out there doing it, and it's my brother. And I just said, oh, water, can I have some water? You know, just as a bit of a joke. And they had all their donuts and their coffee and all that set up. You know, I had nothing, you know, and they gave me some water and said, you want some of this and that? And I'm going on now. But he goes, oh, where's your bomb suit? Right? And this is answering your question. It's a real weird scenario. We got taught always wear the bomb suit because that's something that can protect you if something goes off. But if it's something big like a car, that it just holds pieces together so your family can bury something. You know what I mean? So, but it got to the stage where I never used to wear the bomb suit. And you just go out there and do things because you're able to crawl and get into things, and it was a lot easier to do than doing that. So your confidence grew from experience of you knowing what you're doing, and went on from that. I can't see you, Tiff, if you got your hand.
No, I haven't got the secret signal happening. I haven't.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at a screen with Zoom on it now.
Oh God, you have lost Zoom. That's okay. Were you more connected when you chose this path? Were you connected with a passion or a need for protecting people, or were you drawn towards the adrenaline of doing what others don't do? Was it the danger, or was it the protecting? Like, is being a bodyguard almost some sort of a metaphor for something inside of you?
Yeah, I've always, since I was little, wanted to protect people. If I saw people that were in trouble or in danger, I always wanted to help them. I remember being in primary school and some kid was choking another little kid and had his hand over his nose and his mouth trying to make him not breathe. And then the mates of mine go, I just ignore it. Because they go, look what's happening there. and they kept walking off to go to school, whereas I broke from the group and went and helped the kid. Whereas the others go, "Why did you do that for?" And I go, "I don't know. It was just in me to help somebody that was in need."
Mm.
And, you know, and I've always found that even if I walk now and I see a situation happening and I see people with their phones up or saying, "Call it," I'm always, doesn't matter how many of them are there, for some reason I'm always in there helping the underdog. And so that was always in me.
Were
So,
you ever an underdog? Was it driven by experience?
look, when I was at school, you know, a lot of the time, if there was fights and things, you know, I wasn't really that good, and you know, there might have been gangs, and you get hit and that, but I just sort of just ran away. I was a quick runner, you know, and then there was a few that would be the older kids in secondary school that were bigger and that, then wanted to push into the canteen, and I wouldn't let them go, but then they would push you around and hit you and that. So I got to the stage where I thought, I got to defend myself. So I went and did karate and didn't tell anyone until one day when someone went to push me, I just sort of did the old chop suey on them, and no one ever went near me again. You know, it was interesting how it did. You know, I had a knife pulled on me at school where, you know, I sort of calmly was able to talk the guy out of it, thinking I could, I wouldn't have done it now, but just it was funny how it was. But I think it was more that I didn't see that I was anything that was a strong, confident, good person that ended up doing stuff that I did. But I sort of grew into it as I got into the workforce and got more experience and more confidence. And I think keeping fit and training in the gym and being stronger and, you know, sometimes, and especially doing that martial arts, you know, which could incorporate anything. Incorporates your boxing, incorporates your UFC, incorporates your Krav Maga, incorporates, you know, anything that you want to do, but being disciplined at it gives you confidence, more so than someone who doesn't do it. So when I got into that group, because I was, you know, a good fighter at the time in my mind, and say most of them that were in there, it was amazing how I was accepted more when we did things on the course to do that. So that background was there. But certainly, by all means, nowadays, is that only because you're talking to me now and everything like that, I just sort of integrate into society as just a cool dad, you know. Well, I think I'm cool anyway, Tiff. Just say, or just sort of, you know, like, you know, getting the groceries, excuse me, sir, you no worries, and all that sort of thing. But you know, the old thing, train hard, fight easy, you know.
Love that quote. Love that quote. I'm going to open up soon to everyone else to ask some questions and have a bit of a yarn. I'm going to ask 2 questions first. What is one thing that living this life taught you that you would, if there was one thing that you would pass on to everybody else, one thing you learned?
Yep. My thing is fear, right? Every single person that's on this call, and including myself and you, Tiff, and everybody out there, if somebody says they're not scared or have a fear of something, they're telling you porkies, right? We're all got a fear of something. But the one thing that it taught me, being in doing the bodyguarding and doing the the SOG and the bomb, all those jobs when you're in there, is a sort of a method of overcoming fear. People will say, well, just get rid of fear, you know, and then be confident. Well, that's not right. What we've got to do is we've got to look at the fear and acknowledge it, that we're all going to be fearful of something. But when we look at it, realize that the fear is really 2 things I look at. One is, that's your thoughts. And your thoughts is who we really think sometimes we are. So when we go about the day, we think, who's Gary Wilson? Well, Gary Wilson's what I think about a lot of the time. You know, be careful of this, don't go there, don't get into that trouble there, or don't go pursue that goal, or don't ring up that person, or let's not get into this situation. But really, the thoughts is like your bodyguard. And that's programmed to say, watch out for the rocks, watch out for this, like a sentry on a ship. But the real person, our spirit, is who Gary Wilson, or who we really are. And we're in control. But the way to get rid of it, it's taught me, is to say, not beat yourself up and yell at yourself to stop doing it all, you know, or swear at yourself. It's to say, hey, because they're a protection, your thoughts, because they're there just to keep you safe a lot of the time, is say, thanks for sharing. And then it goes, oh, I've done a good job, like a little dog, and sit down. And then you go about doing what you need to do. So that experience has taught me that, and that's gold to me, because every day when I'm thinking of things, I go, hang on, thanks for sharing, but I'm going to be doing this anyway. And then, you basically, you knock on the door, you're fearful of, when you're opened it up, fear went away. It's the old thing. That's what it's taught me, Tiff.
Mm, mm. And you've closed the door on being a bodyguard and shooting people and killing people with your bare hands now. What's next for Gary Wilson? Like, do you have a passion for anything in particular now as a next step or a current step?
Yeah, well, look, my project, hobby and passion is helping people in trouble. A lot of the times families would contact me when they're, maybe their adult kids are in a bad situation, whether it's a bikie group, whether it's a witchcraft cult, which we've talked about, Tiff, sometimes, or whether it's a situation where they're in the wrong crowd. We've spoken to them, we can see them going downhill or that, how can we help them? And I can work out strategies in order to help them. So that's a thing that I do as passion. A lot of the time, I get paid for it, and a lot of the time I'll do it at for charity way. And I find that really gets my adrenaline going and the buzz going. And the other one,
my adrenaline going just hearing you talk about it when you're darting off from a quick coffee with me to go and crawl through the floorboards of somebody's house and save someone from a witchcraft cult.
Yeah, that's another little Zoom call we can have one time on Friday. That whole job was amazing. How that sort of eventuated. But no, it's look, things like that. But as long as when it works out, I remember meeting Machine Gun Preacher. He's a guy that's a preacher that goes around the world and he saves kids in trouble, but obviously goes in with armies and guns and shoots the baddies and get out. And he was asked, look, you're a preacher, you're a man of God, isn't it thou shalt not kill? How could you go about doing that? And he looks him straight in the eye and he says, this is how I think. If it's your child and they're in your situation, you want them out, would you care what I did? And every answer is no. And it's the same thing. Sometimes, there's a line you step over in order to do fisticuffs to get somebody free to a situation, to be out of that mind control, to go back into professional help, and then later on they thank you. But at the time they're thinking they're doing a cool thing, and if you have to overstep the line, hey, fine. That's fine by me. So that's the thing. I really get a buzz out of doing that, for what we're doing next, Tiff.
What are we doing next, Gary?
Well, basically, I've got a few people now because of this sort of thing, which is flying in and out, being restricted, and doing a lot of those overseas jobs and things. I'm mainly sort of doing like a business now, which is like Uberizing the travel industry as a thing in order to get some income, which is great, but also mindful of. Like I had a call last night, I won't give the names away. Someone rang me who's high up in security and said, look, there's a couple of women that are in trouble, domestically abused, and they need relocation. So we it's on a real high scale. When they go into courts and you're fearful because they go to court, say, look, you're protected here. But it's when they're going out, when they're driving home, or they're going to the car park, or they're going to their supermarket, or doing that when that happens, is doing what we call an eraser, which is stripping their identity, giving them a new identity, new relocation, and some safe things to get into normality. There's a lot that goes on like that I help to do. It's the juice is flowing, Tiff.
Yeah, wow. It blows my mind, because we live in this sheltered bubble, and everyone's sheltered bubble looks a little bit different, but rarely do we think of the things that that you tell as stories, and these things are going on around us all the time, and it's just mind-blowing.
Well, the emergency services would know. Like if you've got a scanner here now, which happens, it's amazing in your own suburb how much is actually going on when you hear it at night and around. It just seems to be constant things at its action. But when we don't have it and we're looking out, we go, geez, it's quiet night tonight. You know, you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean?
For 90% of the people on this call, it's never a quiet night. They're our everyday superheroes, just like you. Hey, I'm going to open the floor. So anyone that wants to jump on, I know Rain's got a question. She's written it in the chat box, but I'm going to let her come on and ask it if she likes to. Feel free to put yourself off mute and come and ask some questions and have a bit of banter.
I can't see you guys, by the way. So I don't know what's happened here. Maybe I should have done it, but fire away. Rain?
Sorry, Rain, you're muted. Go again.
Oh, sorry. Am I good?
Yep.
Thanks for chatting with us, Gary. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, with the royal family, how you did all the bodyguarding there, and if you could sort of elaborate on what you got up to there, because that's really quite interesting.
Yeah, well, it was in the time I was in the special operations group, and what happened was, let's say it was the Queen came with Prince Philip, or the ones that everyone was interested in is Lady Di and Charles. Well, what they would do is if they came to our state, which is obviously Victoria, is that the best bodyguards around for where they're going to everywhere was the special operations group, like the anti-terrorist, which was us. So we were watching them or looking after them to a degree, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I remember when it came from the airport, and straight off the plane onto the car, we're following straight behind them in our four-wheel drive. They went to, they were staying there at where the gardens are, Botanical Gardens. I'm trying to remember that place, Government House. And they would go through there and stay there to go right into that area, and then just sort of sit off at night. And when they come again to get in the car and go off, we'd follow them. But I remember one night, Rain, where the Charles and Di went to a ball in the city, and they were obviously having a bit of a tiff that particular time. I don't know. I think she must have danced with someone he didn't like, but him telling her off of his finger in the back of the royal car when we're following him, because we had the headlights on, and she's there looking at him, and she's looking away from him, I mean, and he's pointing the finger and that. And then all of a sudden she looked at him and said something, and then he just rocked back. It was interesting to see now that we know what's going on. But it was like, to get that close to, like and this is not something that it was interesting, because I never really thought of Lady Di as the most beautiful woman in the world compared to some bodyguard, like Claudia Schifrin. But close up and looking at her, she was beautiful. Her skin was radiant, and her demeanour was so good. It was like an angel, And I've rarely seen many people. So that was one. And the Queen and Prince Philip, like she more kept to herself and just went to the engagements and stayed more at Government House. Is there any other juicy goss you want to know, Ray?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, like it's more the royal family. Yeah, it was basically. It was interesting to see that when they went out into the public, and you see them walking down, say, Swanston Street, and there's all the crowd, and they're waving it all, and they go across it from time to time, and and get a gift or a card or things like that, and you see that and you think, oh yeah, they're having a nice stroll. But behind the scenes, we've got a sniper up in the roof, and then another one down another area in a diamond formation. So so you look at a diamond, one's on one side and the other, like 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, so that they're covering that whole area they'll be. Then you'll have someone walking along in plain clothes, but you're armed to the teeth, and then in the crowd walking behind there, you've got someone walking there. So you've got all this strategy all around. But the reality is, and we all thought this, is that, hey, if some nutter wanted to turn around and just stab with a knife or something, there's nothing you could do really at that time if they really wanted to do it. But at least you could react quick and try to stop that. It was quite interesting. But when we spoke to them, one-on-one to say, hey, we guaranteed our safety, we go, oh yeah, 100%. Nothing's ever going to, we've got it all covered. This is what we've got. They go, great. And they would go out about their way, just sort of being normal.
I just have one more thing to ask you, because I do know some soggies, and I know you would know David Stocks.
Yes, yes.
How is it, because obviously in your job you're not allowed to, it's so confidential, you can't tell anyone anything, you have to live that kind of life where you have to keep everything to yourself, including your name and things. You live quite a secretive life for the protection of your identity. How does that have an effect on you over such a long period of time?
Well, see, originally when we got in, it was like we were called like ninjas in the mist. So normal people in the police force didn't know where we were located and where we were. We trained in secret locations, rivers out in an area where we were practicing targets and pop out things out of rivers and things. And we were in an area away from the normal police, in our own spot. But people that we were in our own squads, and when we were in the blacks and we're going around, they knew who we were, right? So the word would get out very quickly, oh, that's so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. But back then, when we were out and about, and we wore, jeans and the black T-shirts, and we had the spook and we had it all there, we didn't care. We thought we were bulletproof. But nowadays, because of the way terrorism is and the way society's gone, is that you don't wear any of that insignia or markings around in normal society, and who you are and what your ID, it's all closed. Like, I mean, there's only 20 of us back then that were operational, whereas now, and there was 2 of us in the bomb squad. Now I think there's about 20 in the bomb squad, and around. But hey, Rain, quick question for you. Were you ever a personal trainer out of a gym in St Kilda on the water?
No, yes. I was from the arena.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever do boxing or kickboxing or something?
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. Because I think I was bodyguarding a guy one time, and you were around here, but that was a long time ago. But anyway, yeah.
Fun fact, I can't stop telling everyone, I found this out only 2 days ago. I've known Rain for years. Rain was not only the first female fight aired nationally on television in Australia, but also she challenged Muhammad Ali's daughter, Layla Ali, who declined to fight Rain because she's a beast.
You're breaking up, Tiff. You're breaking up.
Shut up, Rain. I'll knock you out.
Oh, yeah. It's good. It's good. Yeah, well, that's the same person who I remember way back then. So it's good to have you on the call asking questions. Great stuff. I love it. And everybody that's on here, I'm pretty sure we've got awesome stories.
Hey, has anyone else got a question or anything for Gary before we finish up? I'm sure, Gary, you've got plenty more stories that if we are lucky enough, you'll join us and dig a little deeper and tell us a little bit more about your experiences.
Yeah, you want me to tell you about a few others?
Oh, mate, keep them coming if you've got them.
Yeah. I think look, one of the ones I talked this one about like with the supermodels and the bodyguards. Like it was interesting. I was lucky enough to be Linda Evangelista's bodyguard, and she, for those you don't know, she was the world's top supermodel. She was the one who was famous who said way back then, I don't get out of bed for less than $10,000 a day, and
me either.
Yeah, when she, yeah, Tiff, you're making what, 20 a day, isn't it? 20,000 and 20 G's a day.
I lowered it to 10 for the pandemic.
Yeah, oh yeah, mate, don't worry. But like, it was interesting because here she was all over the place, right? Around the whole world knew, and here I am sort of doing the bodyguard. And when we were there into the hotel, so she had one room, and then I had made sure that I was in the next room with in case there needed to be action in the adjoining door, right? And one time when we went up, she'd missed her key pass, and we were trying to wait for the whole concierge to come up and try and get access in. So we're sitting on the floor and that, and she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, can we get up and do some training tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Let's go and let's get into it, you know." And she said, "Yeah, because I mean, I'm happy." And she pointed with her hands to the top of her head, with hair down to about here to her waist, but from waist down, she goes, "I'm just not happy." And it struck me at the time when she said, I'm thinking, Mum said, "Hang on, you're the world's top supermodel. You're making what, $10,000 a day. Everybody's sort of like looking around, and here you are in your own mind. You're not happy with yourself." You know, it was extraordinary, the time of thinking that. You know, I'm just giving you little things that everybody, you know,
Wow.
it's amazing what they're thinking. And Claudia Schiffer, I was to protect her just in Victoria and New South Wales, but I ended up must have done a good job, because I ended up being with her for a long while when she was going out with David Copperfield. And I know how he does all these tricks, these illusions, by the way, because it's always backstage seeing how they were done. But it was interesting with her, because she would be one of the nicest people I've ever met. Doesn't, you know, you would never hear her swear. You know, she was down to earth. You know, without her dress up and her makeup on, whatever, she was probably a above average type of person that you'd see. And just talking just like we're talking now, you know, down to earth. You're seeing down to earth. But when she had to go out into public and she would dress, and we would go in the lift and get out, and everybody was all around with the cameras, all the escorts, and going to places, and people wanted to see. It was amazing how she became Claudia Schiffer and acted as if she was somebody else. And it was the same with Linda, you know. But then when you went behind the doors, it was amazing how they just sort of took that off and just went back to normal. It was interesting. And one of the other ones was the bounty hunting I did when I went over to South Africa. Just the last little one that, you know, to keep, you know, an interesting story was, I got introduced to somebody down here, which I found out later on was the head of the mafia down here in Victoria, but I didn't know. And he said, "Look, I've got a problem." He said, "A guy came and showed me $100 US note. And he said, 'What's this?' And he put two blank bits of paper, one on top and one on the other, poured a solution on it, and said, 'Have a look.' And then those bits of paper dissolved into another $100 note. So he had three $100 US notes. And said, 'Go to the bank, say you think they're fake, get them to check it and come back.' Which he did, and he came back and he said, 'No, they're all said it's legit.' So he said, 'What do we do next?' And this is the guy in Victoria, to this guy that gave him a solution. He goes, 'Look, get as much US dollars as you can.' So we got 200,000 US, and they rented the hotel room, put it in the bathtub with all bits of paper in between every single one, and poured all the solution on. And this guy was holding it down, waiting for it all. And he said, 'Look, this is going to take about an hour or so to work.' Anyway, he's sitting there waiting for this to sort of turn into all these, you know, millions of dollars of US. But what ended up happening was the guy said, 'Look, I'm a bit tired, I need to go to the bathroom. Can you hold your hand down on this to keep it down?' He said, 'Sure.' So the guy who was the mafia guy that had all the money was holding the money down in the bathtub. And he was holding it there, wondering where the guy had gone, and then realised the guy was gone. And thought, what's going on? But when he later on uncovered all the paper, it was all bits of paper, and the guy had done a switch, and it was all like a magic trick originally. So he nicked off with the 200,000 US. So this guy wasn't happy, and he sent me and a bounty hunter mate of mine to find him, which was in South Africa. You know, and the object was to get the money back, you know, and maybe rough him up a bit. But so me and my bounty hunter mate, we went over to South Africa, to Johannesburg, and that was the biggest lesson I learned in my life, guys, because here we are thinking we're bulletproof, and we've gone into another territory in a place where we actually found the guy, and we actually cornered him when he was getting into his car by himself. And he said, 'Sure, I'll show you where the money is.' And we frog marched him to an area where it was in a laundromat. And we thought, 'Oh yeah, well that looks all right.' And he did a whistle sound, and this army of people came from everywhere, which he was the leader of this army. And all of a sudden we were arrested and taken up, and we was in sort of a prison thing, and had guns, machine guns either side of us, and in front we had a handgun on us, and wanted to know, you know, what our last words were, you know. And so it was amazing how all this bravado that I'm talking about, and being an SOG and the bomb squad and all that sort of thing, if you get out of your environment and get into a dangerous situation, it's amazing how you can get yourself in there and think, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not as good as I think I am. But yeah, so there's stories like that, Tiff.
Wow.
I find it wonder how I got out of that.
Yes.
Well, and normally I always am careful about this, but it was interesting, and that's where I believe in my faith in being spiritual and there's a God, because you know that was a situation I could have easily, me and my mate been killed, but for some reason we felt calm, and I knew the weapons on the right and left, and I knew that if I had to act that I'd be going to the guy on the right and my mate would go on the left, hopefully, but I don't know. But he was calm. And all he said was, can we get a photo of that big black gun? What's that one called? And it must have mucked around with the mental syntax of the guy who was pointing the gun at the leader. He goes, what are you talking about? And he said, no, can we get a photo before we leave? He goes, what do you mean getting a photo? And he goes, can we have a coffee and all this sort of thing and teas? And in the end, they thought they were just sort of such nutcases and funny that they said, yeah, sure. And they got us a coffee and we're drinking it down fast as we could, burn our insides of our mouth. And in the end, we just said basically, look, you know, that you know, the police actually knew we were here and we were here on this and that, and you know, they'll be looking for us, and the media knew. So ultimately, after a long story on that, we'll let go. But it goes to show you the situations that you get into, you know, that's out of your control. But that's where I always believe, Tiff, that there's someone looking over us.
Yeah. How do you know, or how did you know when enough was enough for you of that life?
When I had my first child, which is my boy Kip, you know, he's 21 now, Kip Tiger Wilson. He looks like Tarzan, Tiff. He's an amazing kid, you know. And I was over there at that time, and I think he was only about a year old, you know. And then I was ready to, you know, my little daughter was ready to be born at, you know, not far after that. And I thought, no, look, I can't do this anymore because I've got a family now. Whereas beforehand, when I was single, you know, I loved doing it. I was first through the door, you know, hey, come. You know, if it's, you know, it was like that bravado type thing. But then when you got responsibility, that's when I knew it was enough.
Your life's way cooler than mine, Gary.
No, it's not, Tiff. That's in the past. That's in the past. I mean, it sounds good, but you know, look at your amazing life, and you know, and everybody on here. I'm pretty sure every single person has got a story and an amazing life. You know?
Yeah, and what I love about you is, and some of the chats we've had, and hopefully we'll have more, but just your ability to really connect with, you know, your emotions and your thoughts and your process, and be able to communicate your experiences in a way that we can draw something out of it. Like, I feel like there'd be a lot of people that have had your experiences that probably just couldn't compute those types of conversations. Yeah,
it's true. Look, you know, I'm not talking out of school here, but, you know, in that group of 20 way back then, you know, it was a wild time. We'll call cowboys, you know. One of the guys drove up on the west gate and jumped off. Another one, you know, went into a, we call it, you know, mental asylum, you know. Another one's gone up north somewhere and he just doesn't want to integrate into society. And you've got others that have, you know, got some sort of stress problems, but you know, but then there's a few of us that got out of that through having a sense of humour. You know, I was having a chat one time, Tiff, where you know, that's where I got into the acting. As soon as I got out of the group, I enrolled into the you know, beginners course of the Academy of Television. You know, with normal people. You know, it was Cheryl from the checkout chick, Safeway, to Bob, who was an accountant, to this. You know, and just mingling with them, you know, and then doing sort of role plays and doing plays in front of people where we're carrying on like nutcases. And I did that for a while, you know, and did all those courses and did a few of those shows and things for a year. And I reckon it was the best debrief I ever had, you know, because now I don't even think, you know, or stress on anything really.
Is it the having a purpose? Is that what drives you from one thing to the next? Is like what is the most important thing when you left that life? What was the most important thing so that you would move forward in a healthy way?
Yeah, I always believe that, you know, you've got to have a mission statement that you write down for yourself. You know, my one is I empower, inspire people every single day, right? You know, a lot of people say motivation, a lot of people say this, but I believe you've got to lead by example. And, you know, anyone that can come along and just say, hey, you know, I can help you with this, whatever that is, there's a formula that you do, you know? And so, you know, to meeting the, you know, somebody in the park who's, you know, not happy and they're stressed on something and, you know, they tell you what it is, you say, hey, this is what you need to do. Here's 3 steps, something easy and simple, because people like getting, you know, you listen to them, but then they go home and they've still got the problem. So you just need 3 little simple, easy steps or something. So that's what I find that I do, you know, every day.
Yeah, yeah. When we first met at Craig Harper's event. I knew nothing about you. First thing I learned was if we had gone to school together, I would not have an education. We were the first 2 people in Craig Harper's crew that got split up from group activities, and I was sent to the opposing side of the room.
That's
And
right.
at that point, if you had have told me that you were an elite special forces, special operations trained killer, I would have rolled my eyes and said, well, that joker back there. You know, I think that, and John's asked that question, how important is your sense of humour? I think that one thing that I'm starting to learn, the more people that I'm bringing in to speak to, like yourself, that have led these incredible lives and done incredible things and have this resilience, is that you seem to be connected, light-hearted, and you laugh and you have a sense of humour.
Is that John that said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, John, 100%. You know what? Like you just hit a key point, which I've just written down myself, right? Is that, and it's funny because when I saw Tiff and we're at the back and there was a few others there that helped Craig, and there was all these people that, you know, when we were on that weekend seminar and we didn't know each other, you know, Tiff and I were just laughing their heads off where I said something like, she said, oh, well, what snacks do you like? And I said, Freddo frogs. and then all of a sudden, I think you went to help someone that fainted in the room or something, and then you came back and you actually gave me a Freddo frog, you know? And that's how we were laughing about it and eating it. And that's where I think Craig, you know, and then we were doing some exercise and we were mucking around, and then we end up getting, you know, separated because we were being disrupted to the class. But like, I think, if you remember the Freddo frogs.
I do. We bonded over a giant Freddo. That's how all good friendships start.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is if you make people laugh, I mean, and you've got a good sense of humour, you know, you don't try to be funny, but just be yourself, because everybody's all different. You know, I remember reading a book by Wayne Dyer years ago. It was just a real, rather when I progressed from Phantom comics, guys. That's what I used to read, just Phantom comics. Ghost who dies, man who walks, ghost who dies, man who cannot die, you know. When Phantom get mad, Phantom fight like 10 tigers. That was all the quotes I used to know. But when I read this one, and he said this, and I liked it, is that we all think that people are smarter than us, or when we meet a doctor, oh, they're smarter, or a lawyer, or a barrister, or a brain surgeon, whatever it is, but they're only smart in that particular skill, you know, but they might not have life skills. And, you know, we try to be someone sometimes, or look at something, but if you actually be yourself, and we meet every single one of you, and you're on this Zoom call as a guest, we see that there's something that we've never heard before, that you've got your own story, that we go, wow, that's fascinating, you know, and the sense of humour part is always got to go through. I mean, I remember laughing and giggling when I was in the SAD, where guys were getting stressed, and guys were going off on leave with mental leave, and guys were being sort of like in these foulest, deepest, darkest moods. I was always giggling and laughing, and so were a couple of other mates of mine, and they're the ones that are still giggling and laughing today. You know, we used to sort of draw the fastest draw of real live guns at each other every time we went around the corner. You know, we used to go, gotcha, you know, and laughing our heads off, even though the boss was going off his head. That was funny, right? But the thing is, it was funny, you know, and then somebody be on the loo sitting down, and you kick the door down and just go, gotcha, you know, to the, you know, until Miss I think one of the guys got shot one time, so we had.
What?
It's a sense of humour on it all. You know, back then you could get away with it all.
Did you just say I think one of the guys just got?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you got a bit of a graze on the leg. You know. I don't know. It was a crazy time, Tiff. We had one of the young guys hide for 3 days in our ceiling because we're trying to get rid of him out of the group. You know, and we had to do our own raid on our own guy. I won't mention that guy's name, but.
He sounds like me. I'd hide in the bloody ceiling if you tried to kick me out.
Yeah. No.
Oh, great.
No, it was good fun. It was good fun.
I just want to say, Gary.
And here's a question I got. So, was that, Tiff?
No, I was going to say I'd just love to have you as my dad, and I wouldn't bring any bad boys home.
No. Who's that? You, Tiff?
No, that's Rain. That's Rain.
Oh, yeah, mate. Hey, Rain, anytime.
No one would screw with me.
Yeah, well, put it this way, it's funny when you said that because I got to, because I don't know who, but like, because, yeah, as I said, I've got my son, Kit, you know, as I said, he's 6'3" and 90 kilos fit. Like, he looks exactly like Tarzan. He's a good kid, and he goes out and we have laughs. He's got his mate around training now. But my two girls, you know, they're always said, oh, Dad, every time someone goes to come around and we introduce or meet, we can't do that because they're shit scared of you, you know? I said, no, we're fine. And apparently one guy came one time, one of the, you know, they told me years ago, and they reckon I must have given them this look of a 1,000-yard killer stare or something. He never came back again, you know? And they don't tell me if something, like they have an argument or something because they reckon the dad go around and kill them, you know? But I said, no, that's not the case, not the case.
You just give him a graze on the leg, right?
Well, yeah. The old
A little bullet graze across the
yeah. We'll get the Hunter 5 out the night, you know, and just sort of just chase after him.
Oh, great. John Verby wants to hire you to escort his daughter to the shops.
Yeah, definitely, John. No problems at all. Have you got everybody else on mute where they've got to talk and Rain can talk? Is that what it is?
No, right. Well, he's just typing things in the chat box. He's a little bit shy now, John.
Yep. Anytime, John.
All right. Any final words? We might leave it there, and I'll definitely love to have you back if you're open to it, Gary.
Oh, definitely, Tiff. Look, you know, you let me know, and we'll, you know, you can get the group around and all that sort of thing. But you know, look. We had so many missions, and there's a stack, and people would know a lot of them, you know, like the Gillian Knight and the whole thing around where it was, and some of these ones that you see, you know, the old Chopper Reeds and things, you know, how it was in prison when you go in there, and you know, there's a million of them. But I think that from what I could see, Tiff, you're doing an amazing one where you got on the online fitness and you started these 4 o'clock to, what is it now? You know, 5:20.
8 p.m.
Yeah, so yeah. Remember, we said we were probably the only one 3 days later with the birds chirping.
We knew it'd be a danger finishing on time.
Right. You said, you know, if anyone wants, you know, certainly help on anything to do with, especially, you know, I really take my head off to what you guys do. You know, you guys are just doing an amazing job. I always ask this question. When we were in the force and in the SRG going to these major ones, it was always amazing how the AMBOs and the emergency services and, you know, you guys basically in the fire brigade were always there before us. Every time we used to go to an area, it was always, yep, you know, that's who it is. You're there before us.
The fireys are always there first because that's all they do is sit and wait for calls. They don't actually work.
That's right. Yeah. I don't worry. My brother, I always have a crack at him about it. He goes, oh, I'm bored. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, yeah, that's because you just go and sleep all night. But you're right. They just, like, they're always there, you know? And we're screaming lights and bells. It's probably getting all our, by the time we got all our guns and ammo, you know? They just get in there and just slide down a pole and in.
And there are a lot more of us than the 20 of the soggies. So we
Oh, don't worry. I learned in the bomb squad that that you never rush to a suspected package or a bomb. You know, it was always that you took your time to get there in case it went off, and never go there at 12, like 0:00, 1/4 past, 1/2 past. Always get there at 7, because they're less likely to, you know, back then when they had those ones to sort of flicker it there as the old joke we had, you know.
Hey,
Yeah.
so I'm Michelle. I'm a paramedic, and I was just wondering, do you think that talking about it and doing these, sharing your stories with other people, do you think that helps you keep your sense of humour and helps you deal with it? Like, I know a lot of people internalise things and overthink them and just this spiral of stuff, and that sometimes can, you know, end up in that PTSD and in that forum. Do you think being open and sharing this with other people helps you?
I think so, you know, because look, I've seen a lot of, you know, you guys have seen some really amazing things, you know, and then, you know, I take my hat off to the paramedics. In fact, I teach a lot of them in Krav Maga. Don't know if any, I don't know how many's on this call, but it was amazing how they came down and wanted realistic street fighting with things because of what was going on out there, that I know firsthand for you guys, you know, that there is some dangerous situation being physically assaulted, you know. But I think that where it is, you know, if you talk about it in a way where you're telling a story that's got that funny light on it, seems to cope better than telling the realistic seriousness of the story. Yeah, 100%. And you know that esprit de corps, we call it, when we were in the group, you know, that we could talk to each other about it, but we couldn't talk to anyone outside. And that was what it was like in the old days. But I think now, I mean, talking to you guys, talking to Tiff and talking to things about it all, you know, because it was real and it happened, and, you know, sometimes you don't mention any names on things, but I think it's a really good thing to do to debrief and detune, you know, and especially
It sounds like you're kind of painting, because your memories change based on, you know, how many times you remember them and the emotions you have when you remember them. So it sounds like you're painting your memories with like a little bit of a rose-colored, like that's not what I mean, but just not as a negative, serious thing. You're painting them with that, I've got to look for, you know, the enjoyment or the excitement or
100%.
the positive aspect of it, rather than dwelling on the, you know, shit, I almost died. It was really funny. We convinced them that they had to give us a coffee. That's a terrific.
Yeah, you know, and you're right, because I mean, I didn't even realise I was doing it until you pointed it out, because someone was asking me about the Deer Park one when there was like 120 rounds shot between the offender and all of us on a muddy sort of day. And but the thing is when people go like, what's that like? And we go, oh mate, the funny thing about it is part of those 120 is Spider shot the fridge. You know, thinking the fridge was, you know, and you're laughing about that. But somebody else could be there going, oh my gosh, you know, like we're going in and the bullets were going in and I could have been shot and I don't know about my family. You know, there's a different way of doing it. So, oh, mate, he shot the fridge, you know, stupid, you know, whacker. And then somebody, you know, so it was sort of that sense of humour, the banter of it all, which I think is part of it, you know. I mean, obviously, you know, you guys have probably got some humorous things on things that were happening that you keep to yourself with real situations. But you're right. I think it's painting a picture of remembering it as something that you love doing. Because think about this: you could be sitting at a desk in an office with a cubicle at a call centre that's just doing the same thing day after day, like Groundhog Day, and then having your little apple and orange in your brown paper bag, you know, drinking your raspberry cordial, and then going back to your Bobby Betty boring picket fence, you know, talking like that in Noddyville, or you're going out that everything you do every day is completely different. You know, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, tonight, today, whenever you're there, the situation, the whole thing of it all, even though part of it's all on the mind and it can be dramatic. But the thing is you're doing something which is fantastic, that's adrenaline pumping. That's how I see it. And you're right, painting a picture.
Sounds to me like, Gary, you do that unconsciously, like that's your natural perspective. Do you think that it is a behaviour that can be learned or ingrained or increased?
That's interesting. I don't know. I think that, being honest, I think some people are just born with it. You know, where it's how when you meet some people, they go, they're really funny people. They're really funny guys, funny girls. You know, they've got this sense of humour all the time, right? Then you got others that seem to be talking about things, thinking they're funny, but they're serious. You know, but I think that it's a skill that can be learnt if you practice and do the repetition enough to do that, and there's easy little steps you can do. You know, I can easily, and Tiff, anyone that wants to know that little skill to teach that. But yeah, I think a lot of it's you're born with it, and I think that sometimes you can learn it, but you know, I think don't take yourself too seriously is the main thing. Certainly you don't, Tiff. I know that.
I'm very serious, actually.
She's got a really sick laugh, hasn't she, guys?
But it's funny, I can hear in your language, like I listen to things like how you answer questions and the amount of times your answer is, oh, the funny thing is, the amount of times I ask you something and always the funny thing is, and that's just naturally you're always looking for the funny thing.
That's true. Look, I mean,
having awareness on yourself of that, hearing how you describe, what's your first go-to when someone asks me a question, am I like, yeah, but, or am I like, oh, and the funny thing, like how am I perceiving what I'm going to tell someone?
Well, the funny thing is, Tiff, no, like I think someone was saying the other day, like, you know, like they said, oh, like with this COVID-19 thing where I can't go over and get paid to travel and do stuff and do surveillance and do all the things, and you're sitting at home and the bills are all racking in, you know, and your back's to the wall. And some people are saying, hey, I've got this job where they're used to, and they've got their super and they got paid regardless in things, and all of a sudden this has happened and they're panicking and they're going, what do I do? And some of them are saying like stupid things like, you know, if I don't do this, I'll jump off the cliff, or I'm just stressed to the max, you know. And how do you going? And I go, well, the funny thing is my back's always been to the wall. So there's no difference from me when I get up today or not on where my next dollar's coming from. So because I'm used to it, the funny thing is I just keep doing what I'm doing when this happens or anything's happening. Mm. You can always create something. You're always going to get fed and have shelter, and you're going to eat, you know, and get watered, and that's how your mindset it should be, and then everything else develops from that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. We will cut it shortly because we've gone 50% over time, and everyone's going to get hungry, including me. And now I've completely lost the train of thought. Oh, I'm a big believer on surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, people who speak like you want to speak. And I think that when you surround yourself with enough of that, you'll start to embody the behaviours. So yeah, well, I guess that was a bit of my answer to Shell is if you see that you want to increase that aspect of yourself, and your outlook on things, start noticing it in people, start becoming self-aware and seeing it in yourself, and choose those people. It's why I go and help out Craig Harper at his events, because I go to places where these people are going to connect with me. It's where I met Rain, it's where I met yourself. And then when I meet those people, I make sure that I'm connecting with them and that they become one of my top 5. I'm big on your top 5 people are who you will become like in every aspect of your life. And I make sure that my top 5 are having the most impact and the most input into my life at all times. So thanks for being part of my top 5, Gary.
Yeah, mate. Hey, it was great that you invited me on. And yeah, when you mentioned it, I said, look, no problem at all. And to me, you know, especially for you guys out there that are doing what you're doing on the paramedics and that, I just got so much, put it this way, admiration and respect for what you guys are doing, you know, day after day. And, you know, I really, really am honoured to, you know, just chat and share some stories and, you know, with you that Tiff invited me on. 100%. You know, thanks very much.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will be speaking to the lovely Sandra Pankhurst, who has kept nice and quiet and hidden off the camera for the call this evening, but we'll be having great chats with her next week. John Verby has a massive crush on you, Gary. Don't we all? My first question last week when I got his full bio was marry me. So me and Gary are getting married on September the 4th.
Have you bought your dress yet, Tiff?
Not yet. No, I'm busy. I'm not really a dress girl. I figured, do I need to wear a dress? You've already got one wife. So do I need, as your second wife, do I need to still buy a dress, or can we just like act?
Well, I was thinking about going and get, what is it, those fizzy pops that are in the supermarket? You know, when you've got the little spoon, you've got the little plastic ring on the end.
Whiz fizz.
Yeah, whiz fizz, that's right.
Is that going to be our wedding cake?
Freddo Frog and a whiz fizz for the wedding cake. So,
Rain said she's going to bring her next boyfriend over for a checkup. All right, guys, I'm just going to stop the recording there. Otherwise, this banter could go forever.